Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight, I ask, if you know a police officer, you call him right now. Tell him to turn the program on and make sure they don't miss the last 10 minutes of this show. Tonight, the next 60 minutes will boggle your mind. I want you to share it with a police officer. If it doesn't shock and wake all of America up, I honestly don't know what will. Hello, America. I want to talk to you kind of first on a personal note. Doing a TV show like this is, don't get me wrong, it ain't digging ditches. In one way, it's the easiest job ever. But in another way, it's difficult, especially if you actually believe in what you say. And you're not just doing what's called rip and read. You're just reading somebody else's work or words. You are actually trying every day as a staff to produce new material because you have a different point of view, and so you have to do your own homework. And to do that responsibly takes hours and hours and hours, endless hours of work for an entire staff. And then each of us, we do a lot of reading. We do a lot of reading of current news, but also of history. And on 9/11, my eyes started to open up, and I realized, holy cow, this is fragile, and we have a responsibility as citizens. So I've been trying to figure things out since then, and I have read an awful lot of books since then. But in the last year, it's weird. I feel like I have been spending time with a few people. Moses. I spent a lot of time with him last year in the Bible. Gandhi, Whitfield. And recently it's been two people. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I didn't even know who this guy was a year ago. This is an exceptional book that should be read by every American. This is a guy who tried to wake the Germans up to the horror show that was coming, and he started in the early 1930s, and it didn't end well for him. And recently I've been spending time with Winston Churchill, another guy who just tried to ring the bell and wake his people up. Both of these guys were unsuccessful. This one for a period of time, this one all the way to the end. And both of them, in a way, became pariahs. This one, believe it or not, more than this one. In 1931, Winston Churchill resigned from the Conservative Party. He was asked to come back in 1939, and then, believe it or not, he was asked to come back because he had been right. In the 30s, everybody's like, Winston, shut up. The Germans aren't building planes. But then in 39, they went, okay, maybe we were wrong about that. Then he helped England win the war, and then the Fabian Socialists drove him back out in 1945. He was more successful than this one. Bonhoeffer died in prison 3 weeks before Hitler was killed. A lot of people in the last couple of years, every step of the way, haven't wanted to believe that there are people that are in this country that hate America. They hate the Western way of life. And you haven't wanted to believe that because, quite honestly, this is the best any human has ever had it in the history of all mankind, here in America. Believe it or not. And if you point out that there are communists or socialists or those who love Mao or want to end the Western way of life, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. And you don't want to think about it anyway. You look at the Middle East and you think, no, it's not going to happen. This is about freedom. This is freedom. They're the freedom lovers. That's all this is. They're freedom lovers. They're not going to do any of this. I'm trying to wake police officers up to something that is really important. My agenda is to reach out, in particular, to the police officers who I love and respect in this country. Those people that are teachers and firefighters and police officers, standing in solidarity with the unions and the radical leftists. My agenda tonight is that you will see exactly who you're getting in bed with. The enemy of your enemy is not your friend, and you must be extraordinarily careful. By the end of this hour, I believe police officers, I hope police officers will call their own unions and say, what are we doing? And I want to start here, but buckle up because it gets much worse from here. It's a story that came out last September, and surprise, surprise, it didn't get much attention in the media. In fact, this program never mentioned it. Shame on us. September 24th, 2010. The FBI launched a comprehensive raid of 7 Chicago and Minneapolis homes of well-known Union socialist and anti-war activists. 20 agents spent all day carrying boxes out of these homes, going through hard drives and cell phones and evidence gathering. So what were they raided for? This is actually a copy of the search and seizure warrant. They were going in because these people they suspected were providing, attempting, and conspiring to provide material to support the designated foreign terrorist organizations. So let me see if I have this right so far. The unions and the leftists are working with radicals like the Islamists in the Middle East. In total, 14 people were subpoenaed. And then later, December 9th, more activists in Chicago were also subpoenaed by a grand jury. Each one of those 9 refused to testify. I'll tell you what they did instead. It's pretty amazing. Now, charges have not been filed by our Justice Department. What a surprise there. The subpoenas requested information pertaining to trips to Jordan, Syria, Colombia, and Palestinian territories of Israel. So now why is this important? What does this have to do with the police and firefighters in Wisconsin or anywhere else? Well, because if you are thinking about standing in solidarity with teachers, who, by the way, are great, and I don't think the teachers are communist or anything else, but the unions are real trouble for us, America. Who doesn't want to support the teachers or the firemen or the police? But you must understand that there is more to know about this story, and teachers are being used as shields, and so are you, the cops and firemen. It is unions that you must understand have been infiltrated themselves. You must not become what Lenin called a useful idiot. I am convinced that there are enemies in this country, and I have volumes of evidence of it. It's beyond unions. It's not just unions. It's beyond Richard Trumka. It is Islamic terrorists. And they are being aided and abetted. They are. And we have turned a blind eye in this nation for political correctness or political connections or political power or political corruption. But a bomb goes off in this country, and it will be the political connections that did it. So, if you're thinking about standing in solidarity with your brother, you must know who you're standing with. Now, if you don't agree with what you're about to see, then you need to call your union and find out about it. Separate yourself. You are not protesting the same things. You are being used. Let me tell you the story. Here's part 1. Joe Eiselbaker. This is a guy that was, they had a subpoena out for. He works at the University of Illinois. What a surprise. And he is a union steward, an official with the union at, say it with me, SEIU. 25 agents searched his home from top to bottom. Eiselbaker is an activist who is a contributor to this website. It's called Fight Back News. This is a socialist rag website that gives the news from the people's struggle. Joe's defense, quote, all we ever did was work against U.S. military aid. Oh, that's all you did, is work against the U.S. military. Oh, okay, all right. He has also previously spoken at the International Communist Seminar in Brussels. He delivered a speech called A Report on the Labor Union and the Labor Movement. That's great. He was also a leader of the New Party. The New Party, what's that? Well, that's the Socialist Party that claims that Barack Obama was a part of it in Illinois. But Obama denies that claim. Oh, and it's also now known, the New Party, as the Working Families Party. It's the labor unions party, started by Joel Rogers. Remember him, the wizard? Then there's Hatem Abudaya. He is the executive director of the Arab American Action Network. This was founded by President Obama's controversial friend, Rashid Khalidi. Tight circle so far, huh? Khalidi was a professor at Columbia who was a former PLO operative who justified suicide bombings as legitimate resistance. He advocates sanctions against Israel, and AAAN has received almost $500,000 in grants from the city of Chicago. Oh, and the Woods Foundation, where, remember, Obama sat on the board of directors with Bill Ayers. Then there's Maureen Murphy. This lady is the managing editor of the Electronic Intifada. That's an anti-Israel website. Then there's Tom Burke. He's a member of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, which, according to their website, there is so much to learn from the countless fighters who have helped scout the terrain ahead on which the road will be built. These include not just Karl Marx and V.I. Lenin and Mao and Ella Baker. The Ella Baker Society, oh yeah, that was Van Jones. He started that, and we'll get to him later. Yada, yada, yada. This is an organization that praised terrorist group FARC. If you don't know who FARC is, they're south of the border. They're responsible for November 2005 kidnapping of 60 people. They also hijacked a domestic commercial air flight. And in March 99, the murder of 3 U.S. missionaries working in Colombia. Oh, they are great. They're described as leading force, the leading force in the struggle for national liberation. Wait a minute, like liberation theology? National liberation and socialism in Colombia. Burke was also the former executive board member and union steward in... Then there is Jess Sundin, known anti-war activist, the Socialist International Answer member. She spoke at an SES national convention. She visited FARC in Colombia in 2000 and concluded that, quote, the FARC are honest people with serious convictions fighting for progressive social change. Got it? You see any common threads here? Now, all of these people are crying foul that it's a witch hunt by the FBI. The FBI, under the Justice Department. I trust the FBI, but the Justice Department, isn't that where, you know, Mr. I'll decide what laws to follow and which to ignore, Eric Holder? I'm wondering if Eric Holder... I mean, how much did it take to get them to go in and kick these doors down, really? I mean, you've got to believe there had to be some serious smoke for him to do that. One activist whose home was raided urged the others not to talk to the FBI. Hey, police, you hearing that one? Don't talk to the FBI. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Build a wall against the FBI. Oh, that's right. This is from CARE, another Islamic organization. That's the poster that they said we were misreading. Some of the activists involved in the raids formed a little group called the Committee to Stop FBI Repression. That, if you go to their website, it directs you right to stopfbi.net. Police officers, you should check this out. It's great. Are you paying attention to this, police officers? Because this is who you're standing in solidarity. Because who's standing in solidarity with Stop FBI? Well, it starts with the AFL-CIO. Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism. Code Pink. Hey, they were over in Egypt. SEIU, Illinois State Council. Socialist Action, Answer. Black is Back Coalition. They demand social justice, peace, and reparations for slavery. Oh, and they also want to free Abu Jamal, or Mumia Abu Jamal, who, if I can remind you just real quick, shot this police officer point blank in the head, execution style. But But that's who they're standing with. Also, the Communist Party USA, Radical Women. This is a socialist feminist grassroots activist organization that provides a radical voice within the feminist movement. Only needed one. Also, Bring the Ruckus. They're just trying to forge a path between the Leninist vanguard party, favored by the traditional Marxist parties, and the loose network model of organizing, favored by many anarchists and activists of today. And their final leg comes from the United States Congress. In November of this last year, the Committee to Stop FBI Repression met with the offices of 16 members of Congress, including all of these cats. Oh, look, there's Maxine Waters and Conyers and Ellison, and this is great. The group said the meetings were all positive, with the offices expressing genuine concern about their situation. So what do all these politicians have in common? Far-left progressives or socialists who want to transform America. Gang, the warning bells are ringing louder than ever before. Bonhoeffer and Churchill, I believe, are in the ground right now trying to fashion little bells to ring themselves. America's blood is in the water, and radical Islamist, radical communist, and radical labor union leaders, organizers, know it. They have people sympathetic to their cause, the cause of destroying the Western way of life, and they are using the best, most brave, most beloved of us, the teachers, the firefighters, and the cops, as shields. Please, you must know who your friends are. You must know what the truth is. And it only gets harder from here. Wait until you see what we have next that's being taught in the school. But the truth has no agenda. Remember that. Soldiers, policemen, and firefighters I have the utmost respect for. I embarrass my children, as a matter of fact, every time I see them on the street. I stop or I cross the street and I go over and I shake their hand and I thank them. Tonight I want to talk to the police and firefighters. They're being asked by the FOP, the police are, to stand with the AFL-CIO. AFL-CIO is a group that by the end of the hour you will hopefully have a different opinion of if you have an open mind. I've already shown you that they are standing with cop killers. The AFL-CIO, also I showed you earlier this week, had a rally in Washington, D.C., and then they used a permit that was obtained by the International Socialist Organization. This is the International Socialist Organization logo here. This is the AFL-CIO logo in Wisconsin. Do you notice the similarities? Then, so they have the socialists hosting it. By the way, are socialists friends of cops? They have the socialists get the permit, and then they have Van Jones speak. Now, Van Jones, ever since we heard his name, I have been told over and over again, don't worry about him, he's a nobody. Okay, so he's a radical revolutionary communist that doesn't like cops and a 9/11 truther. So what? He's only a mid-level White House staffer. Then, after that, he was only working for George Soros and John Podesta at the Center for American Progress. Oh, big deal. And now he's just about the heart part. Somewhere along the line, a guy who called for violence and radicalism on the streets has found Jesus. Okay, I don't know where he did, because as far as I know, Jesus doesn't attend SDS or 9/11 truther meetings, but maybe, hey, you can find him everywhere, right? But this is who the police in Wisconsin are standing in solidarity, locked arm in arm. Wake up. Wake up. Does anybody remember that before he became the green job czar at the White House, Van Jones was making a name for himself in Oakland with his organization, Bay Area Police Watch. This was a group that, quote, has worked to protect the community from police misconduct. Jones also was a Free Mumia supporter. He rallied and protested for the release of cop killer Mumia Abu Jamal. Read the story on him. Jones eventually moved Bay Area Police Watch, tucked it inside to the Ella Baker Center. Heard that name? Oh yeah, earlier in the last break. He adopted the attitude that it was better to drop the radical pose for the radical ends. It seems to be working. He also signed a petition calling for nationwide resistance against police brutality. The petition was organized by the October 22nd Coalition. Police, you know what that is? I hope you do. It's an anti-cop organization whose mission statement was drawn up. By the way, do we have the signature of Van Jones? It was drawn up by the leaders of the Radical Black Panther Collective for Social Progress. It's great. The movement organizes yearly national demonstrations to create unity among the different groups of people being attacked. Unite to fight. Again, police officers, is this who you want to stand with? Apparently, the answer is yes, because this program reached out. One of our producers spoke with Jim Pascoe. He is the executive director of the National Fraternal Order of Police. I don't think he fully understands what we were going to expose tonight. This is what he said to us. The fact that Van Jones is speaking out on collective bargaining issue does not mean that they support or agree with another entire thing in his repertoire. They are prepared to take whatever measures necessary within the law to ensure that the rights of their members are not abrogated. They would be protesting with Glenn Beck if he was at the forefront of collective bargaining movement. That would be a mistake if I had the record of the AFL-CIO and Van Jones. Do you know the story of the scorpion and the turtle? Both wanted to get to the other side of the river. The problem was, one of them was a scorpion. This is the kind of attitude that the left counts on. Van Jones is being given credibility by the FOP. You give him credibility by standing next to him. Police officers, I want to show you, you cannot give him or the AFL-CIO, and I'll explain in a second, any kind of credibility. You cannot raise these people's profiles. You must isolate. That's what they do. Because in their off hours, the AFL-CIO and Van Jones are teaching classes. I'm going to show you what was made for the teachers by the AFL-CIO with the help of the uber left, and now is in every school in New York State. Watch, please. Next. Tonight's program is really for police officers and anyone who is a friend of police officers. I need you to take this information to them and wake them up. Because police officers, I'm sorry, but you cannot give radicals even more power and credibility by standing with them. You can be for teachers or collective bargaining, you can be for anything. But you cannot stand with people that are doing the things that I'm going to show you next. By now on this program, you've come to know Van Jones as a radical revolutionary, a communist, a cop killer, Mumia Abu-Jamal supporter, a former green jobs czar at the White House, progressive activist, advocate of the top-down, bottom-up, inside-out, the hard part, fundamental transformation plan for America. And now he is an important part of a new high school curriculum that your students in New York State may be enjoying right now. Speak Truth to Power. Thanks to Kyle Olson from publicschoolspending.com for bringing this to my attention. December 10th, over 1,000 New York school students took part in the inaugural webcast of Speak Truth to Power curriculum. It was distributed by the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights and New York State United Teachers. Well, okay, those don't sound bad, right? And the book here, the curriculum, features lessons on focusing on corporate greed, landmine awareness, Chinese labor camps, and abolishing the death penalty. No bias there. We're not sure how this will raise student test scores in math, reading, and science or boost graduation rates, but according to the teachers union in New York, according to their blog, the curriculum introduces general human rights issues and urges students to become personally involved in the protection of human rights. Well, now, guess who has an entire section here? Because we've got a lot of people here on the front. We have Desmond Tutu. We have the Dalai Lama. We have Van Jones. Van Jones. The curriculum legitimately features people like Elie Wiesel, who survived the Holocaust. His message should be heard. But Van Jones, where's the Van Jones? Here it is. Here's Van Jones looking all pious on this one. It's fantastic. Van Jones, here's the kind of wisdom that you have coming from Van Jones in this. It's the wisdom about police in New York that your kids can get in the Van Jones section. Ready? A guy is kicked, he's stomped, he's pepper sprayed, gagged because the police don't want him bleeding on them, and then left in a cell. Well, that's the sort of stuff you'd expect in Guatemala, but it's happened just 15 or 20 minutes from here. I didn't see that anywhere. That the police side of the story was told in this, but don't worry, I'm sure one side of every story is just plenty. In a section titled, "Who Do You Think Is Protecting You?" Van presents the International Declaration of Human Rights. I'm sorry. The right to life and liberty and personal security. Freedom from torture and degrading treatment. Are we insinuating that the police are torturing and degrading? How do you define degrading? And it goes on. 120 minutes is devoted to the objectives in this lesson, including know who Van Jones is and why he's a human rights defender. Understand the issue of police brutality within the U.S. and internationally. One of the activities of the lesson is after the budget analysis. You're supposed to ask students to research websites that will provide information on incarcerated men, women, and youth. This is where it goes all dicey, because I want to show you the websites that are linked to this curriculum, and then we'll show you who's paying for it. Here are the radicals, and they all have brushed their teeth and combed their hair and put on ties, and they've dropped the radical pose for the radical ends. And apparently nobody pays attention to little things like, oh, I don't know, here's the International Socialist Organization logo, and here is the AFL-CIO logo. Well, what do you think they have in common? I mean, I think maybe an attorney with some sort of an idea on copyright or trademark law should call. Radicals always are laundered. And in that laundry, I always see AFL-CIO or SEIU come up. And then, to really finish the job, the launder, the trusted shield, calls in the unaware reserves. And in this case, it's teachers, firefighter, and police. There's a reason why the teachers and the firefighters and the police are being used right now. Back to this. Van Jones. One of Van Jones' lessons for students is in this curriculum that is all throughout the schools in high school in New York, and it's right here, materials. And one of them is Lessons for a Killing. And in it, Van Jones asks students to ponder the Anti-Fascist Info Bulletin. Now, what is that? Well, it documents police abuse, abuse of prisoners, and other abuses of power in North America. The political rhetoric may be off-putting at times, but as the experience in San Francisco has shown, the practice of using police violence to punish and intimidate lawful political dissident is alive and well in the, quote, free, end quote, world. That's what he writes. And then he adds this. After he's talking about the police in America, the final paragraph is this. Who knows? Had American citizens taken the reports issued by communist and socialist newspapers in Europe during the 1930s seriously, the rise of the Nazis in Germany and the fascists in Italy might not have been so smooth. So are we comparing, Mr. Jones, fascists and Nazis to the American police force? Yes, kids, if we would just have listened to the communist and the socialist, what a great world this would be. And then, as part of the lesson activity, students are directed to go to certain websites. Oh, these websites are great. There's a sample of them linked to policecrimes.com, which includes, policecrimes.com includes this gem. There is a special place in hell for the following law enforcement agencies, and I hope that every agent and officer from these agencies involved in the Waco incident dies a slow and painful death. These agencies are some of the most dangerous groups of people in America. Remember, the police agencies. And are a threat to all Americans. Protect your families from these police agencies. It continues on to say, if these people can murder innocent people, women and children, just imagine what they're capable of doing to your family. Hey, kids, any law enforcement agency that refuses to follow the U.S. Constitution should be hung by the neck until dead. Wow, can you imagine if I said that? But I'm not saying that. I'm just showing you what they're teaching the kids in New York schools. Now, there's one more site that he advocates. We're talking about a curriculum that Van Jones authored part of it. It's now available to New York State teachers from the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights and NYSUT, a union of professionals. Who are they? Teachers Union. And the Robert F. Kennedy Center, Robert F. Kennedy Center. Now, Van Jones' curriculum on police brutality. I was telling you that it lists additional sources for students. He suggests that the students visit another site, this one here. It's called mostlywater.org. Here's what's at mostlywater.org. Check it out. You'll love it, especially police officers. Remember, you're standing with this man. Mostly Water, March 15th is Police Brutality Day. It's actually Police Brutality Day. And it happens all day. On this website, you'll also find this. The excuse of a few bad apples is a myth. The tree is rotten. The institution of policing itself is the problem. Police systematically use and grossly abuse their power at their disposal to criminalize and otherwise brutalize queer and trans peoples, communities living in poverty. Wow, that's kind of a really, wow. Activist, indigenous, and radicalized communities, those without status, people living with disabilities, drug users, and those living with mental health issues. 2010, they say, was the year of the riot. 2011 is set to be the year of insurrection. Stay tuned for more details as March 15th approaches and join us in the streets. This is great, isn't it? This is great. Are there bad cops? Yes. And those few should be punished. Bad apples must be removed, but they are a few bad apples. Equal justice for all, including police, good and bad. You have the radicals that you would never, ever stand with. You'd never stand with students from a democratic society. You'd never stand with the Freedom Road Socialist Organization or the Palestinian Solidarity Group or this group, Mostly Water. You'd never do it. But these are all linked in books now for our schools by the Robert F. Kennedy School and NYSUT. What is that? Teachers Union. Teachers Union that actually is the AFL-CIO. AFL-CIO money put this together. The Teachers Union. They are the ones that are coming together. By the way, the International Police Union, AFL-CIO. Why would they be eating their own? These people here hate these people here. These are the people, this one organizing against U.S. wars across the world since 1988. These are the people that you stand here as a cop and go, I can't believe I'm protecting these guys. But you do it because you're full of honor. And you are actually standing next to these people. But this guy, and the FOP are convincing you that, no, you're just standing here. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because as you see, these people are these people. You must make sure you know who you're standing with. Endeth the lesson.